Blog Talk Radio.
Across the country and around the world, streaming live on the internet, it's Real Estate Coaching Radio, bringing you the latest news, interviews, and secrets of the top producers. Hosted by award-winning real estate coaches, Tim and Julie Harris.
Okay, we are back. Welcome back to Real Estate Coaching Radio, and we are, of course, your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris. Just a quick reminder, yesterday was the weekend, and it was my birthday. Yay! But that's actually
Happy birthday.
Yeah, well, I'm 44 now. Oh, boy. Of course, somebody else on the radio show is 43 on Wednesday. I don't really know who that is.
42 right now. Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay, Julie, you're 42.
We're working ahead
sure.
now. That's right.
All right. Yes. So, everyone, tomorrow, special guest, Pat Hyben. And some of you guys know Pat. Most of you probably don't. But Pat is one of these agents who's been around for a long time and has had all different levels of success in his real estate career. Pat is a big KW agent, and he's had a huge team. And I think probably in the country he's probably had one of the biggest teams. Not even really a team. It could probably be classified as a mega team. He had, I think it was like 2 separate or 3 separate teams operating simultaneously during the real estate bubble. So he's got a lot of interesting stories to tell about the actual profitability of teams. He's one of the few people, to be honest with you guys, that I know who's essentially built a big real estate team that will tell the truth about his numbers. I'm not to say that the other people that have teams don't tell the truth about their profitability. My theory is, frankly, they just don't even know, because a lot of times you'll ask an agent how much money they are actually pulling out of their teams, and they'll just throw out some number based on, whatever they think will impress you the most. Because then they'll rationalize, well, I'm writing this off and I'm rolling that into the business and my car's paid for and, all the rest of it. But, the reality of it is they don't know really what the profit is that they're pulling out of their business. When I have somebody who has a big team as a coaching student or on a free coaching call, I always drill down and I ask them really the bottom line question. How much profit did you pull out of your business? And if you don't know, or if you're just guessing, what do you really have to show for your past decade, 20, 30 years in the real estate business? Are you a millionaire? Do you have a mortgage on your house? Do you have 2 years worth of savings in the bank? Things like that. Really kind of qualifying and opening their eyes up to the fact that in most cases, they have not accumulated any real net worth. All their team has done for them essentially is pass lots of money through lots of real estate transactions and pass that money right back out. In other words, they aren't keeping anything. So they usually come to us after having followed the primrose path of building a team. They usually come to us at the point where they have an epiphany and realize, yes, I've got all these people working for me, and maybe I'm not having to deal directly with buyers and sellers anymore, but let me tell you, I'm definitely having to do work. I was told that I was going to be able to sit on a beach and pick lint out of my toes when I had a team. I was told I was going to be able to go to my iPhone and get updates on all the houses we sold where I didn't have to really do anything. But then they find out that they're still having to work, and in many cases work a heck of a lot more at a heck of a lot higher level. But they're just doing different kinds of work. So, guys, there's a lot of myths, I think, just to be politically correct and not call them lies, but there's a lot of myths about teams. There's a lot of myths about the profitability of teams. There's a lot of myths about really whether or not agents should be even considering forming a team beyond just maybe 2 or 3 assistants. So we're going to be hopefully getting into some of that tomorrow when we have Pat on the show. And Julie and I have, like I said, we've known Pat for, almost as long as we've sold real estate. So it's, it'll be an informal.
It'll be a great interview. Absolutely. Yeah, because he's honest. He'll shoot straight.
Less of an interview and more of a conversation is what I expect it to be. So, Julie, before we get to today's topic of today's show here on Monday, March 10th, 2014, I have, of course, my question I always like to ask you. Have you had any coaching calls or any experiences, anything you'd like to...
your question du jour.
My question du jour for my lovely wife about essentially anything you've experienced in your own personal, private, one-on-one coaching calls that you would like to share with our listeners.
Yeah, sure. Well, actually, normally I share something from my private advanced one-on-one coaching call clients. But last week I had several calls that were free coaching calls, free coaching calls for agents.com, and they had a similar theme because we had been talking about paying for buyer leads, and we've been talking about whether you should build a team or not build a team. We've been talking about Zillow versus Trulia, all of these things. And, the common question for these free coaching callers was several of them were newer or newish agents. And actually, the surprising thing was I got the exact same question from a couple of calls later in the week from grizzled veterans, and their question was all the same, which was, why doesn't anybody teach us about the bottom line in real estate financially? They were working on the treasure map, our coaching, our business plan that is very personalized. It's not a dry, free downloadable thing that you're going to find by Googling business plan. No, this is much more detailed, and what it does is it forces the agent, our students, our coaching clients, to actually think about their numbers and their goals, what they want out of life, how much savings they need, and to get them refocused on why they got into real estate in the first place. And their question was always the same, well, why isn't there any financial training, so to speak, from, one of them said, why don't we get this as part of our license? We shouldn't be allowed to be licensed without knowing this stuff. That's not going to change, but I would have to agree with that. And they were all focused on the fact that in real estate, you kind of throw stuff at the wall and hope that something sticks. There's no budget involved. There's no goal setting. You're just kind of trying stuff out all the time, and how frustrated they were with that.
It goes back to the original premise of what we try to help all these guys understand is the system, the cards are 100% stacked against them. The whole real estate industry, the whole system, the broker agent system is nothing more than a body shop designed to essentially get new people in, soak them for their centers of influence and their past clients. They're sort of organic, easy deals that everyone's going to have when they get into real estate. You're going to have some friends and family that just, maybe it'll be 10 people, maybe it'll be two people, it'll be somebody who's going to say, hey, you got your real estate license, I wanted to buy X, or I was thinking about buying Y. Or
yeah, you're going to luck out into some deals.
Yeah, you're going to luck out into some deals, and then you're going to maybe, luck out in some deals for 2 years. You might be lucky if you pull out 5 or 10 deals over your initial 24 months in real estate. That's typical. But the problem is once those easy deals dry up, there really is no reason statistically for the industry to reinvest in you, your broker, your office manager, and whatnot. They expect you to fail. They expect you to not last because most agents don't wake up to the fact that really beyond those easy deals, they're going to have to learn how to be business owners. Teaching someone how to have some sales skills, that takes time, that takes effort, but it's not that difficult. Teaching someone to think like a business owner, teaching you guys to stop thinking like you're, working for your broker as salespeople, though legally you are, but remember, you're independent contractors. If you don't believe me, wait until you pay your taxes next month, and you realize that, hey, guess what? I'm having to pay all my own withholdings. So the reality of it is you are an independent contractor. You are essentially in control of your future and the fortune that you do or don't build. So what we really focus on is how to make it so you guys can not just earn a lot of money, but keep a lot of money so that one day you wake up enjoying the benefits of true financial freedom, not the kind of financial freedom that you hear about on the late-night infomercials. I'm talking about practical stuff, your house paid off, no credit card debt, no car debt, at least 6 months' worth of financial reserves in the bank, those types of things. And then the next level beyond that would be producing enough passive income from non-real estate business sources that if you chose to, you wouldn't have to work anymore. That is easier to do than you think, buying things like rental properties. Buying rental properties and buying them smart, paying them off, lots of other ways you can produce passive income. But really, guys, it's a process, and it starts with your mindset. So getting back to the question, one of the things, again, that Julie and I sort of really hope to open the industry's eyes about agents, because remember, we're an agent-centric coaching business. We're not going to be up there telling you to form a team unless we know for a fact that as an individual agent that's the best thing for you. Of course, the industry wants you to form a team. The industry, for the most part, wants you to have a bunch of licensed assistants, because then they make you, that essentially puts you in a position of having to do the hardest job for the broker, which is recruiting.
Yeah, now, if you want to get all those fees and you did all the hard work.
Yeah, the hardest thing, guys, for a broker, those of you who don't know this, the crappiest job in any brokerage is being the person that has to recruit new agents. It's a horrible job. So if they can figure out a way to get you to do it by forming a team and telling you how it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and then all the agents out there who should be learning how to sell, all the agents out there who should be learning how to save, pay off debt, and build wealth are then distracted because they're now forming teams. And guys, just listen. In some cases, a team makes sense for you. But I have to tell you, in most cases, if you have your head screwed on straight, if you truly understand the financial ramifications of the decisions regarding adding staff and all of that, it doesn't move you closer to the goal of financial independence and financial freedom. It moves you further away, and sometimes further away to the point where you start accumulating debt. You start actually making it so that the probability of you ever having any sort of real wealth goes to zero because you formed a team. It's mind-boggling, isn't it? Please don't think that being famous or having a team or being able to brag about all your staff is the same thing as being rich. Please don't believe that having a team and having a big staff and even having, your name up on every billboard in town is the same thing as being rich. Very rarely does being famous and being wealthy go together. It's another American myth that those things do, but very rarely. It's very common that in most major markets, the top producing agent, the agent that everyone wants to be like, everyone loves and hates, everyone knows who that agent is in your marketplace. Well, it's very common that that agent is probably 2 or 3 bad months away from being broke. If you don't believe me, go back and study the recent history of when the bubble broke. How many of the nation's top producing agents declared bankruptcy, or essentially were walking on a knife's edge to the point where they had to get rid of everyone on their team?
Tim,
So
I remember a Superstar
right
interview with Valerie Fitzgerald in L.A., and I remember her saying, pretty close in after the crash, that her team had grown to the point where she wasn't sure what everybody on the team was actually doing all day long. And she downsized her team, which totally made sense. But, when things are booming, a lot of strange things can get covered up, like where's all the money going and who are these people anyway and why do I need 12 or 15 of them? So it's interesting to see what agents do as they get more productive and hopefully more efficient. Sometimes they actually end up being less productive and less efficient because they have the money to pass through now. They don't make the same great decisions that they did when they didn't have it to play with. It's kind of an interesting thing to watch.
Lots and lots of cash flow covers up lots and lots of mistakes.
Exactly.
That's just the thing. Lots of cash flow covers lots of mistakes. You're just not as careful. You just don't think about it. It was very
interesting. That's curable, though. That doesn't have to be their life sentence.
On tomorrow's radio show, I'll ask Pat, and I already know what he's going to say, but I'll ask Pat what he would have done differently and what he knows all of his, billionaire agent compatriots would have done differently had they known that the real estate bubble was only going to last 7 years or whatnot. I already know what his answer will be. I'll just tell you right now. They all would have saved more money. Every single one of them would have saved more money. Every single one of them would have, been a lot more prudent about the accumulation of debt. You guys remember, if you've been in this industry for any length of time, you remember how everyone was championing good debt versus bad debt? Rich dad, poor dad. You guys read that?
Good to be leveraged.
Yes, good to be leveraged. You still hear that argument out there. Oh, with interest rates so low, why don't you go out and borrow yourself up into oblivion and have a whole bunch of debt? And why would you
take advantage of those low rates?
And why would you pay off your own house? And why wouldn't you go out and take advantage? Right. Well, I'll tell you why. Because as soon as, for example, all those brilliant rental properties that you have mortgaged to the hilt or lose value, remember that? Does happen. Or as soon as you have enough of those go vacant where you have to make the mortgage payment yourself, guess what then happens? That thing that you were calling an asset is now a huge liability, and it won't take too many of those liabilities to really cause some serious financial heartache. So, guys, think about that. So when Julie and I come back, we're actually going to pick up where we left off a couple weeks ago with how to get unstuck and how to stay motivated every day. And Jules, my dear, I'm counting on you to tell me where we're supposed to pick up from the last time we presented this because I don't remember. So we will be back in a very short break, and then when we do, we are going to get back on the topic of how to get unstuck and stay motivated every day.
Is coaching right for you? And how can I guarantee it will work for me? Chances are you are asking yourself those questions right now. I'll answer those critical questions for you in just a moment. But first, let's be honest about something you may have always suspected. You've probably always known that the nation's top 1% of realtors, those millionaire agents you see on TV, they possess a secret knowledge that the other 99% of agents do not have. Where did they learn what they know? And more importantly, how did they learn how to put this closely guarded information into money-making action? It's simple. They have a coach. Not just any coach. The nation's mega millions, top 1% of the realtors know that in order to maintain their almost unfair advantage, that they must have their own personal coach. A proven, market-tested coach who has truly walked in their shoes. A coach who has worked with many of the nation's leading agents. At this point, you're probably ready to maybe try coaching. However, you don't want to be unfairly locked into a long-term ball and chain that coaching contracts can give you. It just makes sense that you should be able to try it before you buy it. Even more importantly, you want to have a coach who is the best of the best, not someone who is simply assigned to you or, even worse, has never sold real estate. Can you imagine? If this is you, I have something for you right now that is exactly what you have been looking for. For the next 48 hours, Tim and Julie Harris Real Estate Coaching is offering you a free coaching call. This is a real coaching call with a real Tim and Julie Harris coach. Now, while you were thinking about it, why don't you visit us online at freecoachingcallsforagents.com to get started. Once again, that is freecoachingcallsforagents.com. Now, let's be clear. This exclusive coaching opportunity is only available for the first 50 realtors who are stone cold serious about their real estate business and know that in order to succeed at the highest level, they must hire a coach. So don't wait any longer. Take action now and visit us again at freecoachingcallsforagents.com to schedule your free coaching call. Again, that's freecoachingcallsforagents.com. Thanks so much. See y'all soon.
Okay, we are back. So, Julie, let's jump right in our notes. And remember, guys, go to freecoachingcallsforagents.com. And please, existing Tim and Julie Harris Real Estate Coaching, Harris Real Estate University coaching students, please, you guys obviously are going to be given priority when you're requesting a free coaching call. Julie and I are decided to keep ourselves in rotation for at least another couple of weeks so you can actually schedule a free coaching call with one of us. And I'm adding more of our coaches to the roster just because we've had a lot of requests, and I don't want to have make you guys have to wait too long for your free coaching call. So go to freecoachingcallsforagents.com. If you're not a student but you're seriously considering becoming a student, obviously request a free coaching call. Let us know what we can do for you. And I think you guys know us well enough if you've been listening to this radio show that we're not just a one-trick pony as far as coaches. We are 100% advocating agents having multiple sources of leads that they don't have to pay for. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and listen to previous radio shows. Again, another hot topic for us is the idea that agents should never be buying buyer leads, just kind of nutty. Moving on, we are picking up where we left off a couple weeks ago. So, Julie, the next point and how to stay motivated every day and get, and let's say, stay unstuck. What's the next point you wrote down?
The next point is a simple one, which says read great books, or we might say listen to great books. You know, you've got Amazon downloads, you've got audible.com, audiobooks.com. There is no excuse but to fill your brain with great stuff. One of my favorites to always go to is Napoleon Hill. And this, I use this on coaching calls all the time. Here's a great quote from him. Don't wait. Time will never be, quote, just right. And in our coaching calls, Tim, on the individual classes as well as our individual one-on-one calls, we have this theme called, what are you waiting for? I know in our short sale class, Michelle McClintock has a great call that she does. What are you waiting for? You're waiting for the bank to call you back, waiting for the other agent to call you back. On my personal coaching calls, I am always using this quote from Napoleon Hill about lead follow-up. Well, I left a message. I'm waiting for them to call me back. What are you waiting for? There's no perfect time. I get the question, when's the perfect time to call an expired? You know, like there's some magical moment during the day that all expired homeowners will be home. There's never a perfect time, so don't wait. That's just one little mini morsel from Napoleon Hill. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, and you're going to be introspective about this, because what you're talking about right now is procrastination, right?
Right.
Okay, and so you are a musician. You're definitely somebody who's analytical in nature as your most dominant personality, which, by the way, we're going to be talking about that very soon on this radio show, DISC. So, Julie, you haven't always been a take-action kind of gal. You used to suffer from procrastination-itis, right? So, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners today are basically realizing that one of their fatal flaws in making money in this industry is basically procrastinating. So how do you help how did you get over being a procrastinator? How do you help your coaching clients get over being procrastinators? You know, and the other funny thing is a lot of these guys rationalize their procrastination, especially the analyticals, because they think that they're supposed to not do anything until they've absolutely mastered it. You know where I'm coming from. Help these guys understand that, sort of giving them something they can use opposed to just a point.
Well, excuse me, you and I went on your birthday walk yesterday, and I'm trying to remember exactly what the quote was, that perfect is the enemy of done, for example. Yes. So getting things done. Now, I heard an affirmation. I don't know where this comes from, but I probably heard it 15 years ago, and I use this a lot when I feel myself procrastinating. And it's a simple affirmation that says, I'm a doer, I do things now, I get things done. I'm a doer, I do things now, I get things done. And I apply that to probably my favorite thing to procrastinate is exercise. So I've adopted an exercise first thing in the morning policy. That way I'm not thinking about it the whole day and procrastinating the entire day, because I've noticed that when you start procrastinating one thing, then you're in a procrastination habit of procrastinating other things. It's all related. And you and I talked about yesterday on our walk the fact that some of our best agents in terms of doing their lead follow-up with urgency, our best outward prospectors, our most successful agents, they also don't procrastinate things like working out. It's all related. It seems that it may be part of the same part of your brain where if you adopt that, then it translates over to other things. I know when I practice piano regularly, everything else that I do is better. I don't know why that is, but down with procrastination. But I like that I'm a doer, I do things now, I get things done. Go ahead.
So what I'm hearing you say, though, is that there wasn't a long, complicated think-about-it process to stop procrastinating. You just basically got off your butt and started getting things done.
Yeah, and I talk about that with my coaching clients because many of them will come to the call knowing that they are procrastinators or avoiders of certain things, and they've convinced themselves that there must be something wrong with them. And I'm very direct with them after getting to know them and making sure there isn't actually something wrong with them. You know, occasionally I'll have a client where I can't understand a word they're saying, and I'll send them to an accent reduction coach or something like that, where something actually might be holding them back. And I'm going to be honest with them about that. But 99% of the time, there is nothing wrong with them. They just have to put one foot in front of the other, take action now, and do what Napoleon talks about. Create a definite plan for carrying out your desire and begin at once, whether you're ready or not, put the plan into action.
You know, there's a psychological angle to all of this, obviously. First of all, the whole procrastination thing is usually just basically societally reinforced learned behavior, learned bad behavior. Because if you grow up in an academic background, it's normal for basically to be around people that are, your parents are both school teachers. And they're both analytical for the most part. And it's natural, in having grown up like you did, to have a lot of people around you that are going to be reinforcing the sort of, analytical ethos.
Yeah, we like details. We like to study stuff. But in business, you don't have time to become an expert, and that I believe that that's a myth, that if you're being really good and really frosty growing your business, that you never believe that you are an expert, that you're an all-out specialist, that you know all there is to know. I just don't think that that's possible in business. You're absolutely stagnating if you take the time. That's not to say that you're not supposed to study things like the listing presentation and how to present, but to always be polishing and upgrading and doing better, that does move the ball forward. That's why our saying, with our coaching is your job is to earn while you learn. If you wait around to be perfect, you're going to go broke in the meantime.
That's right. And by the way, it's Marissa Meyer who said that. Perfect is the enemy of good, right?
I love that quote.
Perfect is the enemy of done. And I think if I remember correctly, she's with Facebook, not with Yahoo. But in any event, you can imagine she took over the job of being CEO Facebook, and she was around all these analytical dudes in their 20s and probably 30s now, and a lot of these guys had, essentially procrastinated their way to success and think and thought, and probably still in many ways still act like, you have to be making sure everything's perfect before you actually release the product. But like Julie said, the end result is you got to get things done. And there is no way to think your way out of procrastination. You have to work and do your way out of procrastination, and that's pretty much it. Frankly, when I get a real strong procrastinator as a coaching client, what you've got to do psychologically is help them overcome their procrastination by creating, so for example, they have fears in their minds of failure, fears in their minds of what happens if the seller says this to me, or I have this situation or that situation. So they think they have to study all possible, ramifications, all possible scenarios before they'll actually take action. So they perceive the pain of not actually being completely studied to be greater, than the pain of actually taking the action. So what you have to do to make that simpler to understand is, as their coach, I have to, frankly, and oftentimes if they're really, really bad procrastinators, I have to create some really painful situation that if they don't do what they promise they're going to do from week to week, not what I tell them to do, what they promise they're going to do from week to week,
right.
If they procrastinate it, then they'll have to pay a fine, or there'll be some sort of other painful ramification. So, for example, if you say you're going to contact 5 of your centers of influence and past clients, obviously those of you who are coaching clients, you know that I always tell you to make sure they're not on the do not call list. So assuming you're legally prospecting your centers of influence and past clients, and you call those guys, you're supposed to call them, let's just say you're supposed to make 5 contacts between this coaching call and the next one, and you don't do it, well, so for every coaching call or every contact you don't make, there's a $100 fine, right? So something tells me that you're going to all of a sudden find the motivation and get over the procrastination. And once you have several coaching calls like that, sometimes it takes a month, where you have to keep on inflicting a greater negative than the perceived negative of actually doing the effort.
Right.
Once you do that for enough calls in a row, what happens is that procrastination software in that person's brain starts to be replaced by that taking action software, and then their world changes. And to be honest with you, Julie, a lot of the procrastinators, the analytical folks, they oftentimes, over time, will make the greatest coaching clients because they can program themselves to do, basically they embrace repetitious boredom because that's kind of how they're designed.
Right, and they're results-oriented too. They like effort equals results. And, to be honest, it's not just the analytical clients. There is an element, certain clients that are more on the expressive and driver side that don't feel like they should be doing that. It should be somehow the client's job or the prospect's job to call them. And it's maybe an ego thing for some agents. I suppose that could apply to all 4 personality styles. And it's interesting when you change that mindset that it's not the prospect's job to call you. The reason you get paid is because you're helping them. And if that means you've got to call them 3 times in order to reach them because they're at work or they've been on vacation or they were at their kid's soccer game, that's part of your job. So I think that for some agents, the procrastination is caused by different things. But no matter who they are, the thing that bothers me as a coach is it gives you a built-in reason for maybe why you don't have the success that you want. It's because I haven't studied that enough, or I'm not quite perfect enough, or I haven't, I don't quite know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything. And that's where you've got to just take the plunge. And it's okay to hear no. It's okay to hear that client's not ever going to do anything. They're not a lead anymore, but at least you know. So I'm a big believer in just break the ice. It's better to find out something than to blow it off. All big coaching lessons, really. Go ahead.
Yeah, and if you guys, so all of you procrastinators out there, and you're procrastinators, you've got a list of things to do and they aren't getting done, and the specific things that you're supposed to be doing that aren't getting done are the things that are going to put money in your pocket. If you're having problems actually taking action on those things, request a free coaching call. I have free coaching calls for agents.com. But you just listened to Julie and I tell you how we're going to help you overcome procrastination. So please come ready to accept the fact that sometimes the medicine is going to taste kind of bitter, but the end result is you're going to be better. So just keep that in mind. All right, the next point, Julie, we also talked about this on our walk yesterday, which I'm glad to see made it into our notes today. And we're going to go a little bit over today, guys, so don't worry about it. So is that okay with you, Julie? Do you have a
I was just making sure you were aware,
Yeah, I'm aware. Okay, so we're going to go a little bit over today, guys, because this next point I think actually ties in well with the last one. And the next point that I wrote down, that Julie and I wrote down, was, Julie, you can go ahead, embrace change. Read the rest of it, please.
Embrace change. Victims are frightened by change, and leaders grow inspired by it.
So Julie and I are going on this long walk yesterday. It was probably 10 miles, right? We're walking through the hills of Austin. Beautiful, beautiful day. Just not too hot, not too cold, just really nice. And we're talking about essentially what makes a really phenomenal coaching client. Yes, that's right. When we're not working, this is what we talk about. We talk about you guys. When we tell you guys that we've literally done hundreds of thousands of coaching calls each, I don't say that to brag. I say that so you'll feel sorry for us.
Right. You should.
Yes,
some calls more than others,
so,
probably.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing about change that's very interesting to me. So you guys, everyone runs into people all the time that try to get to a point in their lives, they don't use these words, but where they get to the point where they can be comfortable, okay, where they can become complacent, where they can actually stop feeling like they have to get better, where they feel like they could just kind of kick their feet back. You know, psychologically, we all enter this little sort of stage of retirement at different stages in our lives for different things. It could be financial, it could be spiritual. So what am I talking about? Financially, have you just essentially hit the pause button and you aren't really focused on improving your financial situation? Well, I mean, that's obviously what we focus on because we're your business coach. So if you're focusing on physically, are you even paying attention to your weight? Are you even paying attention to your health? Are you even paying attention to the things that you're putting into your body? Not our space, not our area of expertise, but again, this is another surefire way to know whether or not you're complacent, whether or not you embrace change or you reject it. So here's the theory. Here's the working theory that Julie and I were talking about. You know, we were walking through the beautiful, mountains or hills and looking at the streams and the rock formations and the gorgeous trees and the spring flowers coming out. I know Midwest is still suffering from a long winter, but the flowers will come out, guys. Just have patience. So we are walking through and enjoying this beautiful afternoon. And, Julie and I, we are surrounded by things that are changing constantly. But not just that. Those things, everything, the rocks, the flowers, the trees, the molecules in the air, everything is constantly changing. Our bodies are constantly changing. I don't remember off the top of my head, but literally every single aspect of your physical body replicates itself, reproduces itself every so many days. You essentially, all the liver cells you have, for example, replace themselves after so many, weeks or whatnot. I'm not a physician, but some of you have been exposed to this type of, physical information, this type of health information before. That's, again, getting back to the reason why you got to make sure you're being careful what you feed your body. So, we are walking through nature. We're obviously part of nature, and we're realizing that everything around us is always evolving. It's always changing. Everything is always becoming something else. The flowers are becoming something else, and then a month or so from now, they'll become something else. And you are exactly the same as that flower is. So stay with me on this. I'm not going too far off on the crazy end here. Just follow me on this. So if in your thinking you decide that you're going to become complacent, or maybe you don't decide, but your actions have essentially are representative of a subconscious decision you made to not continue to evolve. If you decide, for example, not to get better at your real estate skills, if you decide to not become better at your presentation skills, if you decide to not be constantly improving literally every aspect of your life, and the aspects of your life that you're not improving, you have decided to go against nature and embrace complacency. That is the root of all problems, in our opinion. So if you, for example, get to the point where you feel like you have a perfect relationship with your family, everything's ideal, and you stop doing the things that you had to do to make it so that it was ideal, that relationship will degrade, won't it? If you think you have a perfect financial situation, you've got all the money in the world, everything's perfect, so screw it, you're not going to pay attention anymore, you're just going to be complacent, you're going to let it coast, you're going to delegate it, you're going to do whatever it is that you're going to do, what happens to that money? It disappears, because essentially what you focus on expands. Where you put your energy expands in a good way or a bad way. But so many of us, especially in the real estate industry, we get to the point where we have a certain war chest of skills, where we know enough, or we think we do, and so we don't evolve it, we don't change it, we don't allow it to grow, and as a result of that, we start to struggle. You know you're going the wrong direction if you feel like you're struggling. If everything is a little bit harder than it used to be, it's because you are fighting frankly, the way we are all designed, which is to constantly change. See, your situation is changing. It's just changing not for the good, but it's changing against you. So if you're not constantly evolving, embrace change was this point, you are actually going to devolve. You're actually going to start, in that specific aspect of your existence, of your life, you're going to start dying. That's the reality of how it actually works. You know people like this. You can walk into people's houses sometimes, and it's like a time capsule of, the 70s.
Yeah, I remember when we used to pre-qualify sellers, and they'd say, oh, it's been completely renovated. And, of course, we would believe them, and we'd be all excited, and our CMA would be a little on the high side. And then a few times we walked in and, okay, renovated. So now we added to our pre-qualification script, what year, right? Because I remember Oscar's house. I know you remember him. It was beautifully renovated in about 1967, velvet wallpaper. And it was high quality. It was beautiful back then.
Yeah.
But that's an example of someone that's in the time capsule, and sometimes you can be in a time capsule in your mind, too. I mean, I think back to when the market changed, how many hundreds of thousands of agents didn't want to believe what was happening? Oh, it can't last forever. Things will turn around. It'll be better in the spring. Oh, it'll be better next spring, So it's interesting to see those cycles, and it's important to stay really tuned in and really present with what's going on in your head, in your marketplace, with your sellers and buyers. I talk to my agents that have tons of listings, and we monitor the number and frequency of showings that they're getting, because that can stagnate. They can believe that it's going to be, low inventory, multiple offers forever until it isn't.
Well, but that's just the thing, right? So what worked yesterday, I guarantee you won't work as good today. It's impossible. So you have to always be changing, always be evolving, always be getting smarter, always be keeping yourself challenged. I think about the people, Julie, and I feel sorry for them, to be honest with you, because when I'm thinking about you guys, I remember Julie and I remember in our real estate practice the times where it was literally a couple of closed deals or we were going to have issues. So we didn't always have a smooth path to success. We did sell hundreds of houses, but trust me when I tell you, we probably screwed up twice as much as often as we had success. It's true. And there were times when, it was really, really stressful, and it was really desperate, especially in like the first 3 years when we were trying to figure everything out back when we were in our early 20s. And I remember how that felt. And I remember how no matter what, we didn't give up, and we pulled through. We were able to do what we had to do. See, the change forced us. The stress forced us. The situation forced us to get better. It forced us to evolve. And so when I'm thinking about any kind of coaching call with you guys, when I'm thinking about what to present, what to write, anything to share, I'm always reconnecting with that Tim and Julie from 20 years ago. I'm always remembering how we felt then and how I want to free you guys of ever having to feel the same way. And I know Julie's motivated by the exact same thing. So there's an old Chinese proverb that says, a smart man, I was going to try a Chinese accent, but I'll insult somebody so I won't, but a smart man learns from his mistakes, and a brilliant man learns from the mistakes of others. That's what coaching's all about, guys. It's learning from the mistakes of others as much as it is learning what to do. But learning not what not to do is usually a more valuable lesson than learning what to do. Think about that for a second. So we're going to pick up where we left off. Tomorrow's the Pat Hyben interview, and then the following day, Julie and I will get back to these points. Obviously, we really love these points because it's so. I think if you're opening your mind, it's so.
And Wednesday's my birthday, so chocolate, flowers, cookies, all this is good. It's all right.
Yes.
Whatever you like. All the above.
The only problem is they're all going to send it to our Las Vegas address.
No, they'll call and get Rochelle, and she'll eat it all.
Yeah, exactly. Rochelle will be like, oh, I'll take it all. So you guys, if you want to wish my lovely wife a happy 43rd birthday, which is scary since I've known Julie since she was 15. Oh, my God.
I know.
Anyway. So if you'd like to send Julie birthday wishes, you may do so by sending them to her directly at CoachJulieHarris@gmail.com. Coach Julie
and don't forget,
Harris.
Tim's was yesterday, CoachTimHarris@gmail.com. So we're our mutual birthday week here.
That's right. We're mutual birthday week. So I get to be married to a woman who's 2 years younger than me for one more day, so I'm going to enjoy that.
That's right.
Yeah, because Julie's only, she was born in 1971, and I was born in 1970, for those of you who can't figure out what the heck I'm talking about. So we're going to end here, and we're going to pick up with the Pat Hiban interview tomorrow. Thank you for listening today, guys. Hopefully you're getting a lot from, I think, our maybe in some cases overly frank and overly, I think, honest conversation. We're really telling you the kinds of things that I personally wish we would have known back when we were selling real estate, things that we've only learned from having done literally tens of thousands of coaching calls, the real truth behind the big red velvet curtains of, real estate glamour, the real truth behind real estate teams, the real truth behind how you actually build wealth in this business. That's what we're all about. So connect with us. Request a free coaching call at freecoachingcallsforagents.com. In the meantime, make sure everyone listens tomorrow for our, I think, will be wonderful conversation with Pat Hiban, and we'll talk with you tomorrow.
This program has been a presentation by Tim and Julie Harris, Real Estate Coaching. For more information on our real estate coaching and training programs, visit our website at timandjulieharris.com. Remember to tune in weekdays at noon for upcoming shows, and until next time, thank you for listening to Real Estate Coaching Radio with Tim and Julie Harris.